Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of CDH The Lost, a podcast about CEDH. Today I'm back with Nick and Parker, the two people I did the tournament prep episode with. Say hi guys.
Oh,
Good evening, gamers.
We're gonna be recapping the Pacific Northwest CDH regional qualifiers hosted by Gabi's Olympic Card Games and Comics tournament. Um, it was a really fun tournament. Uh, Me, Nick, and Parker all made top 16, which is pretty hot. Um, Something crazy about the tournament that happened is on Thursday, they had a player cap of 64. On Thursday, they hit it and they removed it because it became a gold event for Top Deck. We hit 94 players, so it was a packed room. Um, yeah, it was
hella
just a
warm.
hella warm. I wore a sweatshirt for the first two rounds and then never again.
Yeah, it
Um,
was cooking in there.
yeah, but we were also cooking, so that's
True.
all that matters.
Bellingham boys came in clutch. Shout
Yeah,
out
True.
Cameron for making top
true.
four.
Top four. We
Our
Yeah.
had
goat.
we had six of us go down. Me, Parker, Nick, Cameron, Jack, and Carter. Oh, seven, because we also had Nathaniel. And four of us made top 16, and then Jack, if we move over to page two real quick,
Just below the
17.
cut.
Rest in
Yeah,
peace.
yeah. So like we all kind of cooked basically, except Cart. We won't talk about him.
It's okay. We still love you, Cutter. You'll get
We
there
still
one day.
love
True.
Carter. Um, but yeah, we're gonna talk about how our rounds went and stuff like that. Not into super as much depth because there's three of us and we don't need a 3 hour episode, ideally. But yeah, let's go round one. I'll go into mine. I won. That's pretty cool. Let me find it. Yeah, right here. I went second. I kept a pretty mediocre hand. Um, I had one land, and if I drew a second land, it was a percent a turn two win. Did not draw the second land. For like 5 turns, and then I finally drew the land after the Master Transcendent player attempted to win like twice, and then they were all out of interaction. Their fishes died. Um, yeah, I got there off of a breach win con after I finally drew my second land, which was pretty sick. Nick, how did your round one go?
I did pick up a round one win. I got to play against Joe, so it was a fun game. He's a great player. Unfortunately, did get a little slowed down. It was kind of a long game. I think towards the end of time we got it. Um, and one of the players, unfortunately, was very mana land screwed the whole game, which kind of made it more of a three pod. It was unfortunate, but control deck was able to hold it down, and we got there in the end.
Yeah. Uh, all right, Parker. Let me type your name in.
Oh,
How did
yeah.
your round one go?
My game one, I lost, but I presented three different win attempts in one turn. I got really unlucky, which it happens. Like, Elsha goes brain freeze in response to my win attempt and hits Pact of Negation and Force of Will for my Emil and for my um, Court of Calling. So it was like, I just got really unlucky.
Yeah,
And
not
like,
brain
one,
freeze, right? Brainstorm.
no, brain freeze.
And casting
Oh,
off the
oh, I
top
see.
in
Yeah.
Yeah,
between
yeah.
brain freezes. Yeah.
Yeah. The storm count was like 12, and they were able to find uh, a Pact of Negation and a Force of Will when they needed it, and it just
Yeah.
and then they untapped and won the game with Underworld Breach.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it happens. It was a good win. It was a good round though. I wish I won, but it happens.
Yeah. My second round, I also won. So we started off 2-0, which is right where you want to be with Rogside, because those first two rounds are like where you need to get your wins. Um, I don't really remember this game. Oh, I was like, wait. No, I drew. I was like, I don't think I won my second round. Uh, Perfect. This makes a lot more sense. Yeah, we drew. Um, we got. I didn't attempt to win. I was on a Ristic study plan, and there was a Rog Tavesh, not a Rog Tavesh, a Krom Tavesh player that clearly had four pieces of interaction the entire game and wasn't casting it on anyone else because they were afraid of me winning. And then we had a Tivit player who also wasn't doing a whole lot. They cast Tivit and were not beating my fist, which I was thankful for, but were beating other players because they were like, Rogside's not doing anything, let's just chill out here. And they were trying to find their window for a time sieve. And on the final turn of my life, I cast Final Fortune. They let it resolve because they were like, together we have five pieces of interaction. He has like six cards in hand. And I try going for it, and I take about 20 minutes off the clock because of people deciding when to interact and stuff. And so when I passed it to Riley, I believe, no, August. When I passed it to August, they had the time sieve in hand. They drew it off of a Ristic study that I saw. They put were on the stack, and then Tavesh responded, and they drew the time sieve off of it that they were going to use the word to go get, which I thought was funny. But then time sieve doesn't work when you go to time, so we drew, um, which was pretty sick. And then Nick, how did your round two go?
I believe I was playing against a green-white Sisay in this game.
Yeah, Jonas, yeah.
Yeah, and it led to a very stacked out pod between my Null Rod and Sisay tutoring hate pieces. Sisay got removed several times, was denied setting up any real sort of win, just had a lot of interaction all around. On my final turn of the game, I did make a win attempt with cracking a Ranger Captain, but there was a silence in response, so I tried to go over the top of it and then had to go through all the counters and didn't quite get there. So we drew it out.
Yeah, which is best case scenario in that. Parker, how did your round two go?
Round two, Isaiah just had the nuts. It was like turn three, him on Sisay. Turn one, Kenrith goes rock or drops four rocks, and then passes, and it's just like, oh, Dockside's really, really good right now. And then Isaiah goes turn three Dockside and just had the nuts, had tutored for Emil and just won the game. So it was just, it happens.
Yeah, it would happen. All right, this is round three, which I believe is also a draw against Nick. This was my favorite pod of the entire day because it's three people that I love playing Magic with: Isaiah, Guy, and Nick. Yeah, we could sum up this game by three major misplays. Um, I'll talk about mine and Isaiah's. Isaiah's was on the turn he was gonna attempt to win before time ran out. He attacked me with Sisay, and I blocked with Silas, and he forgot Silas had Death Touch, so I blocked with Silas. I was like, combat damage? He was like, yes. And I'm like, your Sisay dies, my Silas dies, I die. And I picked up my stuff real quick, and he was like, oh wait. And I was like, my stuff's already picked up. Which was unfortunate for him that he didn't read Silas and saw that had Death Touch, because he had a Deadly Rollick to remove Nyx, Drana, and Linvala to be able to present his Sisay win, even if he has to recast Sisay. He just wanted me dead for interaction. My misplay was at the start of my combo turn, I had a Chrome Mox that I imprinted a Vampiric Tutor because I thought I needed one more mana, but I miscounted my graveyard. I thought I only had 5 cards in it, so when I put another card in the bin, I would have only had 6 cards to make my Cabal Ritual only add 3, and I needed to add 5, but I miscounted my graveyard, so I could have used the Vamp Tutor to put Underworld Breach on top when I cast the Yawgmoth's Will. Isaiah had a Force of Will that he couldn't pay for Ristic Study, so I would have drawn the Underworld Breach and won that way. But those were my misplays. Nick, how did this round go for you?
It was a good game. I tutored.
Yeah.
I think I played largely well towards the final turns of the game, until the final turns of the game, rather. I tutored up the correct pieces at the right time, had
Yeah,
drawn on Winvala, keeping Sisay off, which is actually where my big misplay and game rule violation comes from.
Yeah.
Because at some point, a turn or two prior even, a Fimage came down from Isaiah on Sisay, copying my Drana and Vala to shut me off the abilities as well, so I couldn't Bloom Tender or Thrasios. And then later, my Drana and Linvala was removed, and our whole pod forgot that I believe Bailey was dead at the time, so probably
I
not
was.
paying
Yeah.
quite as much attention. Forgot that his Fimage on the corner of his board was a Drana and Linvala. And so I tapped my Faberil Elder for Sans Red and cast a 4 mana Thrasios with it and passed the turn. And then Isaiah went to his turn, drew 3 cards off the One Ring, drew his card for turn, played a Tyvar, and then on the stack, we realized that I couldn't have done that. We had to have a judge call, and like they came over, but it was too much had progressed in the game to remove it, so we just
Yeah.
went from there.
Yeah. It was
It
almost
was
a
a
10-minute judge call, wasn't it?
Yeah. I
yeah,
was farming the game rule violation there because I was a dead player, so I didn't get it. But all the alive players got it, which I thought was an interesting judge call because I was still. It was the turn after I died, so I was still at the table paying attention. But yeah,
it was just kind
But
of an unfortunate situation. We all missed
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and there was no way to properly rule it back. But I don't. We did draw out the game, and I don't think it ended up impacting the game. Um, so I don't feel terrible about it, but
yeah.
it is just unfortunate.
And then Parker, it looks like you won your game. How did this game go?
yeah, I finally won a game. It it was fine. I landed a turn 2 or turn 3 Smothering Tithe, which just launched me really far ahead. But then we had a Yuriko player, and he swung out and flipped 15, blind flipped it, Enter the Infinite, I think, which is 14 or 15.
Love to see
And
it.
so we just got hurt really bad. We all went down super low. Um, and the other list was like the blue green sack
Alunda.
clues.
Unknown.
Yeah. Sack
Known.
clues, and then
Oh,
put the top. You may cast the top.
Lonus.
Yeah. And so we were able to um yeah, that one.
Yeah.
We were able to. They were went to put Enter the Infinite back on the top of their library. They made a major misplay. They probably would have won the game. They made the misplay of put Anola to 3. Anola went in response to damage everything swinging at them. Tap 3 pain lands and kill themselves.
Mm.
And
Yeah, to
so
try playing for like a draw.
yeah, and then it was like untap, and I'm like, oh, I just have the win. This feels so scummy, but we never agreed to a draw if he does this. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I guess I untap and win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
and
felt
in
like
a
a weird
tournament
win.
setting, you
Yeah.
do kind of have to take what you can get.
And so it was like, it felt like a weird win, but it felt good
Yeah.
to finally win my first game. It really reset my mental.
Yeah, that's another thing we can like characterize the tournament as is like a mental battle, even if it wasn't us three but other people. Um, but going on pod 3, uh, I won. That's crazy. This was Kanoa, Jarrett, and Charles. Also an amazing pod. Kanoa and Jarrett were like super, and Charles all are Lacey people, so they all knew each other really well. Um, Kanoa works at Gabi's, but was able to play for this tournament, which was exciting. This was probably the funniest game that I had because Kanoa had an insane start. It was a turn 1 Basalt Monolith, turn 2 Thrasios, and I had a turn 2 Dockside. Um, and there was a Ristic study that I paid for from Jarrett, and I made 7 treasures off of it. No, 8 treasures off of it, I think. No, definitely 7. And then Kanoa was like Charles was on Sisay and they were developing their mana dorks and mana rocks and stuff like that. But Sisay, as we all know, doesn't play interaction, so they weren't a
Hey.
real problem.
True.
uh, so it was just me, Jarrett, and Kanoa in terms of how my deck works playing Rogsai. Um, Kanoa puts Seedborn Muse on the stack, and I communicate with Jarrett, hey, I don't have good interaction here. And he was like, okay, I'll show you this Pact of Negation on the Seedborn Muse. And Kanoa was like, okay, I think this is fine. Cast Kinnan. With a Basalt Monolith and a Thrasios already on board. And Jared's like, I don't have interaction, I can cast here. And Charles was like, I don't have interaction. And I was like, I have interaction, you're not gonna like it. So I put Adnaz on the stack. And Jarrett had 3 pieces of interaction in his hand, but he only had 5 mana that he needed to use to pay for the Pact of Negation on his upkeep. So he had to let my Adnaz resolve. It was an insane Adnaz. We go deeper than we needed to, because I think if I stopped at like 7 cards, I still get there. But I went like 20 cards deep, went down to 7 life, because Jarrett could hit me for 2, and then the Sisay player could hit me for a max of 4, putting me down to 6, and then I could win the game on my turn. The Sisay player didn't even attack me, which was nice, so I could use some of my talismans and stuff, which I didn't need to, but it was like 5 pieces of free interaction, Thassa's Oracle Consult, and Jarrett had 2 pieces of interaction, so I got there on like turn 3, and Jarrett was like, you know, that was unfortunate. I should have like, he had a line where I do get stopped, but he obviously didn't see it because I didn't tell him I had Adnaz in the hand, because hindsight's 20/20, but that was a really good game. Nick, how did your game 2 go?
Game 4. Um,
Game 4, yes.
the see the pod real quick. If I'm right about which one this was the most frustrating one of the day for me personally.
I would love to let you see the pod if my keyboard decides to like work. There we go.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, right
so
here.
we have Tivit, Derevi, and 5 color Sisay.
Yeah,
Um, Off the bat, Derevi mulls down to 5, and I think Tivit was down to 5 or 6 as well. So low card hands. We pass around the first turn. It looks pretty normal. There's just a land at a Tivit, which is a bit lacking, but I mean, you mull down to 5 or 6. It kind of happens sometimes.
yeah,
And then there's a land, and I want to say Wild Growth out of Derevi. Unfortunately, the Derevi did not draw a second land, and the only other spell cast that game for them, I think, was an Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which was under my Collector Oof, and
yeah,
Tivit was unable to do anything because they had banked the entire hand on 3 lands and a Mana Vault casting Tivit, and then I had a Collector Oof, as my deck does.
yes.
And so it very
Yeah.
quickly turned into a one-on-one of me versus Sisay, and I just could not find an answer that actually interacted with Sisay in a meaningful way. My Force Will and Swan Song did not do anything when Sisay started tutoring, and the line came together after a couple turns, and that was the game.
Yeah,
Was not able to find an answer.
Farker, how looks like you won. How did your round 4 go?
Yeah, game 4 was actually really fun. The the weirdest play I think I saw during the whole tournament was um I cast Smothering Tide turn 2 again. It was in my hand for a lot of this tournament, and it was an insane card, MVP for this tournament for me. Um, cast the Smothering Tide, and in response, the Thrasios Crom player Tavesh Thrasios player goes, Tainted Pact? And I was like, okay, he's trying to find free interaction to get rid of the Smothering Tide. No, he molds down to Opposition Agent, gets rid of Pact and Negation, Fierce Guardianship, Force Will, Force and Negation, Thoracle, Displacer Kitten, Breach, everything. He got rid of everything. Gets down to Opposition Agent. he got rid of Hullbreaker as well. And I'm just like, okay, you have win
Clearly,
con left in your deck. You really
clearly,
hate
this
Sisse.
guy doesn't listen to this podcast because he would know. Take Oppo out of your goddamn decks.
And so, uh,
But he's hating on Sisse. Maybe I have
so
the right idea.
But
fair.
he just lost the game because of it.
Next question, please.
And so it's a couple turns of me just accumulating treasures here and there. No one's paying for it. And so they land Mystic Remora after I land a Smothering Tide, and I'm just like, wow, this gets so much better. Connor was on the colorless Eldrazi commander
Yeah.
that gives colorless spells Cascade. And
Yep.
one turn they went Cascade one thing, Cascade into another, and just putting things onto the board. I had a Kinnan in hand. I was just accruing so much value. Think Kinnan went to get exiled, and I was able to spin it like 3 or 4 times in response. Ended up hitting a Fimage, which I Fimaged an OBM, which we were able to destroy Connor's board with. We were able to stop him from attempting a win with Metalworker and Clock of
Yeah.
Omens and everything. And so we were able to annihilate his board. We reset the game. Went around. We ended up going to time here. We had a slight extension, and it got to the point where we all made a deal at the table. We're like a minute left. We're gonna draw a card, and if it's not the right card, then we're gonna pass the turn. Because we're all stuck, and so I literally need like one of my couple outs to Oppo, and I'm able to draw a card. It's not it. I draw Amanatu, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play an Amanatu because we're at time already. If I pass, it's just we're drawing. Play Amanatu, draw a card, put one on top. The card I draw is Touch the Spirit Realm, and I'm able to get rid of the Oppo and win the game. It was a really fun pod, and playing with Connor is always a really fun time.
Yeah, I do love Connor. Round 5. I lost this game. Obviously I went third, which isn't the biggest deal, because the other pods I've been going second and third most of the time. Jacob was on 5-color Sisse, and they played a turn 1 Deafening Silence that I had a Force of Will. I should have Force of Willed it. But that's hindsight 2020. I was like, I have an out Chain of Vapor, but I had to use my Chain of Vapor to remove Kilgore's Kinnan, I think it was, or Dockside, so he couldn't win the game. He ended up winning anyway because he just had everything he needed, which is okay. It happens sometimes. Yeah, Nick, how did your round 5 go?
Well,
Oh, I see.
the Atlas effect, as we say. No, it was a good game. Unfortunately, it did disintegrate into a 3-pod, as there was a seat. Ryan in seat 1 was on Corvold, and he dropped a turn 2 wheel, which left our 4th seat player, who was on Malcolm Kedis, sitting on 2 lands the entire game, which went beyond time and ended on the final turn.
Yeah, that sucks
Which was
because they
Atlas's.
only need 3 and they can do things.
Yeah, it was extremely unfortunate. They were really just locked out of the game the entire time, and so just kind of started zoning out, which honestly, I don't blame them. It was an extremely long game. It's like the 5th round of a long Swiss tournament, and having no
Yeah.
game actions to take is extremely frustrating.
Yep.
It did. This is the game I can point to that I have a misplay in, which was the failure of my tournament goal. But I performed well overall, so it is what it is. But
Yeah.
what happened was I had an opposition agent that got countered with a delay. So into exile, 3 time counters, suspend. I had moved it prior to starting my turn, where it had only 1 counter left, and in my upkeep I forgot the trigger, did not remove the last counter. Lo and behold, surprisingly, the table did not want an opposition agent on the field, so I was not allowed to go back and perform the trigger.
Yeah,
And Atlas ended up having a tutor chain in his last turn that led to a win.
unfortunate.
It was unfortunate.
You would think the other two would want it just to be like, hey, we can get a draw here.
Yeah, I
But
think, well, I think Malcolm Kedis was kind of beyond caring at that point as they'd been so far out of it.
yeah,
And I think Corvold is always holding out hope that, like, you can add Nas into the nuts and you probably need to be able to tutor for that.
yeah,
Um, there was one other unfortunate instance there. I mean, I had a Ristic study the whole time, but what turned us off for Atlas's final turn was a Ranger Captain, which I bounced as we passed into his turn so that we had a slight window.
yeah,
First action was recast it, and uh, Malcolm Kedis did have a Pact of Negation, but they missed that Ranger Captain was being recast. They were zoned out from having not been part of the game for so long. So Ranger Captain did unfortunately hit the board, and we got silenced and locked out. And Atlas was able to piece together a win.
yeah. All right. That is unfortunate. Alice did come back after a pretty rough start of the tournament, so
Yeah, it
we
was
could be
played
happy
very
for him.
well. Props to them.
Yeah.
I
But
lost my round 5. It really doesn't matter.
Well, what happened in it?
Oh, I mean, it was an okay game. It was like I was feeling the fatigue of drinking 5 Celsiuses plus, um, plus just everything, and so it was like it was a cool game. I think one of the best moments of it was turn one. Charles goes Savannah, ignoble hierarch. Then Jonas goes Savannah, Llanowar elves. Clayton goes land, and then I go Savannah, noble hierarch, and we are just all like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah,
And so that was like a really cool moment of the tournament.
yeah,
But yeah, it was a game. I think the worst part, the worst one of the worst things that happened to me in this tournament happened in that pod. I got Avon mind censored on turn two fetch land, and I
oh
was just
yes, I
like,
remember this.
I was so far out of the game. It was gonna be a turn three smothering tithe, and I was gonna be back into it. Sisse, I was like, it was like Sisse, and it was Sisse, Derevi Sisse, and it
Yeah,
was the 5 color Sisse that was across from me went turn two smothering tithe. I gave him some value off of it so that he had interaction up because he completely tapped out for it.
yeah,
And then I besaged it, got him another land, and then continued through there, which he didn't hit another land off of the even mind sensor Beseju. So, uh,
rough.
but yeah, Jonas ended up running away with the game. Clayton
Yeah,
tried to put up a good fight, but I was so far out of the game. There was a blind obedience that came down at some point, and I just it was like, oh, the smothering tide will make me come back, but it really didn't. So,
yeah. Um, Pod 6, I lost. We lost to Aaron Street Urchin, which is a sick deck to lose to. I love Aaron, playing against Aaron. Super good player. I love playing honestly against all these players. They are all great to play with. Connor, Tyler, Aaron, all people I do love playing against. It was unfortunate because Connor and Aaron were at 7 points and 6 points, I believe. Um, no, looks like Aaron was at 8, so Connor must have been at 7. And me and Tyler were basically locked, so we wanted draws, but those two needed to play for it. So me and Tyler kept pretty mediocre hands to begin with. Um, and then I had a Imperial Seal to go get a turn 2 Ristic, but Tyler mental misstepped it, which I should have probably politicked better and been like, hey, I'm gonna go get a Mana Crypt. Um, or like I'm gonna go get a Mana Source, I guess is how I probably would have worded it. But that didn't happen, and that's okay. All right, Nick, how did your round 6 go?
Interestingly, I also played against an Ernest Street Urchin. I think there were two at that tournament.
Yeah, they
Um,
both been cooking with it.
yeah, I did end up taking this game. I had, I think, Fabro and Bloom Tender down, and passing into my turn, they killed Fabro Elder,
Yeah,
which is like, that's okay. Or no, on my turn they killed it. I tapped it for mana for 3 mana in response. I top decked that turn chain stasis, which makes infinite mana
Pretty
with either of those
good.
two dorks, and I was just like,
Yeah.
huh. So I put a finale on the stack for X equals 2. Um, one of the people was thinking about countering it, and someone else said, no, I've played against this deck before. It's a collector oof. And so they let it resolve, and I put a Grand Abolisher on the field and cast Chain Stasis and won the game.
That
Yeah.
Just a
that
bit unfortunate of history with my deck.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because I was talking to Jarrett on round like 4, I think it was. And he was like, I watched your video literally 2 days ago, and I played against Nick, and my first opening hand was 5 mana rocks, a land, and a counterspell. And I mulliganed it because I knew Nick was just gonna collector roof me on turn 2. And I was
Yeah,
like, I mean, fair enough.
my deck started developing that I don't know how to like aura, I guess, at
Yeah,
locals where people will just not keep hands with artifacts, and that
yeah,
means I don't even have to play the youth.
yeah.
It
It's
yeah.
just has
so
to be in my
cool.
deck.
It's so cool that like it's making an impact. It's just like this is funny. And then Parker, you won your last one, which we were all hyped about, because
Yeah.
then we weren't all gonna be at 12 points.
Yeah, it was a hell of a fun game. This game, oh my god. You're you talked about how your Isaiah guy and Nick pod was great. This one was so much fun. We all were just vibing. I mean, it was late. It was last round. It was
Yeah,
like we were all just vibing, having fun. Like even the judge came over and he was like, "Wow, you guys are just vibing over here." I was like, "Yeah." Um, it was an all around fun game. Uh, Seth going first presented two win attempts and we stopped him. Um, sh- Shannon was just like on Kinnan mulled the 5. It was just I don't know exactly what he was doing, but he was just. I landed an early Draenith, which was like just shut him off, and then it got gilded. Or no, Seth landed an early Draenith, and then I gilded Draked it later to get my
mm,
Sisay out. But
yeah,
funny enough, another game that I got a Smothering Tithe out because I drew the damn card, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, this is good here. And yeah, it was really good. It was a fun game. I ended up taking it because uh, it was again like we were all being super nice to each other, and it was it. I asked the guy, I was like, if because he's like there, I have to top deck a very specific card to win the game, and he didn't, and he passed the turn to be nice, and so I was like, oh, okay, I appreciate it, and then I was
yeah.
able to untap and win. So
That is sweet. Now it's the top 16, all of our last games. Um,
yeah,
this was Jonas on Green White Sisay, Riley on Timna Malcolm, me on Rogsai, and then Josh on Five Color Sisay. Jonas, being a Green White Sisay player, played a turn 1 Deafening Silence. I had a turn 1 Wheel in my hand, so I sat there basically the entire game. Um, which is fine. It happens sometimes. So with the Deafening Silence, I was like, oh, so Jonas is gonna probably try running away with this pretty quickly. They tutored for a Sigarda and cast the Sigarda, and I, in response, Deadly Rollicked this Sisay, which he didn't verbally say that he was upset, but you could tell by like his physical demeanor that he was very upset that I knew how his deck worked and how to interact with it. So I did that, and that set him back 2 to 3 turns. Which, fun fact, if you want to ever disrupt Green White Sisay, kill the goddamn commander. Um, Especially before they get their protection pieces out. Jonas is really good about the first card they tutor is a Sigarda or a Sahili, the other angel that does it. Um, so if you interact at that point before it comes down or counter those spells, Jonas is in the hole, and then his deck is a little bit worse. Because if we're being honest, Green White Sisse shouldn't be making top 16, top 10 every tournament Jonas goes to. He is a very good pilot, but he's playing a suboptimal deck. Um, just learn how to interact with it, please. I don't need to see him in the top tables every single time because people don't know how to play against a Green White Sisse deck. Um, like if you
Coincidentally,
look,
in my game against him, I did the exact thing you're talking about,
yeah,
and
and it
in
came a
response to
draw.
the Sigarda, blew up some key things like the
Yeah,
Sisse, and there was a combo piece on board. I cannot for the life of me remember which one, but it was there.
yeah. And currently, Green White Sisse is on no other elves except the Quarian Ranger because they're on Ashaya and Nissa. So if you see a Nissa get tutored up, just know you're about to lose if you don't have interaction. Um,
He's
yes.
definitely on more elves than that. He
Is he?
played Atlanta where elves against me.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, no, because now you can just do the Nissa and the Ashaya. Ashaya enters as a land. Because it turns all your creatures into forests, and then
Oh
you get
yeah.
to loop that way. Um, anyway, if you learn how to play against Fibblefip, you can learn how to play against Green White Sisse, a real deck, is all I'm saying. But
People
yeah, we
figured out how
lost
to
to
play against Falco, man. They can do anything.
yeah, uh, we lost to Timna Malcolm. They just outvalued us. They had a Delny, Timna, and Malcolm, and none of the other players drew interaction. I used a counterspell on one of their creatures. Um, and yeah, it was just a low interaction game, which happens because we had a Sisse at the pod and two Sisses, both of them. Sisse doesn't play interaction. Anyway,
Hey.
Nick and Parker, top 16.
Yeah, so we did get
Yeah.
potted up against each other here, which is a bit
Big
unfortunate.
yikes.
But I mean, with 16 players and four of us in the
Being
top
Bellingham
16, it
boys.
would have been
Yeah,
kind of crazy if none of us did.
true.
True.
Um, I was cooked going into this game, like mentally. I was so exhausted
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
you
I
weren't the
didn't.
only one.
Yeah, I'm sure you were too. I was wishing for one of those energy drinks that you'd been chugging on.
true.
This was what time did we start this round?
This was
Uh,
at
Roughly.
like 10:30.
10:30, almost
Yeah,
11 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
seventh game of the day.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
we got up at like 6 in the morning to drive here,
Yeah.
yeah,
Same.
drove 3 hours, and then started the tournament. So all
yeah.
of us are deep fried. So
Yeah.
Yes.
it made this round a little bit weird. Um, I think it was a pretty low to the ground game. There was a lot of interaction. Some
Yeah.
key moments, like Parker had an incredibly clutch touch the spirit realm
Oh
that
my
saved
god.
us from an
Yeah.
early loss to Derevi.
Yeah. Derevi was trying to clone the Emil that Nick just ended up playing, and then it was just like, oh, sack Ranger Captain. Oh, we're fucked.
But
If
touch
it,
the spirit realm was our salvation.
true.
I did present two different, like, sort of win attempts. One of them got shut down. The other one, I could have won the game, but I messed it up myself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Instead, I had a carpet of flowers producing 3 mana. I made 3 white. I used all of it to cast a Ranger Captain of Eos.
yeah,
Had I tapped my Delighted Halfling for the colorless to cast that Ranger Captain, I would have had the one colored pip that I needed to win the game after my silence resolved. However,
yikes.
I was tired, I messed up, I miscounted,
Yeah,
and ended up having to pass the turn after a counter war where I got my silence to resolve.
dang.
But, it happens. But
It
I think
does.
I played pretty well. Parker, what about you?
Yeah, it was an interesting game for me. I was very cooked. I had 6 energy drinks at this point. Um, I had drawn a lot of cards off Esper Sentinel through the rotations. I hate the new ruling, but I was able to convince Alex to pull back his silence, which probably was my major misplay of the tournament. I should have just let it resolve, and then he doesn't probably win on his turn. Um, and so it's like one of those things where I think that was my major misplay. And like I drew a lot of cards, had a lot of mana. My Smothering Tithe got Steel Enchantment, that hurt a lot. There was an oof that landed, and I said I would protect this with my life just because the Alex and David went ring on turn 2 or turn 3, and so it was like we were just gonna lose the game at that point. And so yeah, it was a fun game though. It was actually really it was just mine. Right, I was done by the end, and yeah, it was a fun tournament, and it was honestly a good way to end it.
Yeah, shout out David though. Thought of Adele.
True. I was pleasantly surprised to sit down against him for the second time of the night. I have
Yeah, I
a
found out.
soft spot in my heart for Thought Adele.
I finally learned what he does. He chooses a deck and he'll play it for the year, not playing any other deck. Like last year he was on only Tivit. This year he's on Thought of Adele, which I think is so sick.
That's some impressive
Um,
dedication.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, and then shout out Cameron, of course. It was funny because I asked him what he was on, and he's like, and Jack, the person he came with, he got 17th, was like, he doesn't want to talk about it. He's on Bruce Thrass. And I was like, hey, Cameron, I'm proud because I was talking to him on the Thursday before, and he was like, I think I have to build like a Traxa or Najila or like a good deck. And I was like, no, this is a good deck. You know what you're doing. Please just play it. You're gonna do fine. And he's like, yes, but the deck can't win. And I'm like, no, it can. So the joke going into it was Cameron doesn't know how to win games, and here he is in the top 4.
Notably, part
True.
of that joke is because his draw percentage is sitting at like 55, 60%
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
it's higher than
ridiculous.
mine.
It is insane.
Yeah, it is insane. But yeah, overall the tournament was super fun. Um, I wasn't expecting 94 people or 6 rounds of Swiss. I was expecting the 4 rounds and then top 10. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that was a brutal tournament.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
would do it again.
there were
For
so
sure.
many sisses. Holy crap!
Yeah, I know. I wonder if we can, probably not
Maybe.
here, but we'll eventually the things will come out with how many Sisseys, and I can't wait to see how many. I'm sure it was like 18.
Is a bit excessive.
Yeah,
Can we
I'm pretty sure.
see like just I'm fine with a couple being there. Parker, you're okay, it's fine.
Hey,
But can
hey,
we
hey,
not
hey,
have
hey,
a
hey,
full quarter of the tournament be on the one deck?
hey!
True.
Hear me out. It's a good deck.
Parker, I'm aware it's a good deck, but you literally were like, I literally had Dylan today being like, we don't need more Rog size in the meta, and I was like, there's
There's
2 of us
3.
currently,
Yeah,
and I just convinced someone else to play it. Leave us alone. Look at
yeah.
Sisse, look at Kenrith.
I think I saw like
Please.
9 or 10. Last
Pivot.
tournament there was 2. Last
Yeah,
Gabby's tournament there was 2. Now there was 9 or 10. I was like,
I'm
hey, I
aware.
was the original. Leave me alone. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and
new deck soon.
some of the normal Sisse players weren't even there.
I know.
Yeah, it wasn't even the usual suspects. It was
Yeah,
just
it's just like, oh, okay.
where did they come from?
Yeah, alright, so let's go to decks. Let's go at mine first. I think the deck performed really well, obviously. I'm excited for CDH6. We get to add another enchantment called Necro Dominance to this pile. Um, and then the only thing I wish I had was another piece of removal for Deafening Silence, which the last episode I was talking, and Stern Scolding is what I think it's going to go in for,
Stern
maybe.
dismissal.
Yeah, Stern Dismissal.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but I don't know. I'm still gonna figure that out. But yeah, the list performed really well. Um, I had people ask me why I didn't uh, proxy out a Time Twister, and I told them because I don't wanna.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, good
Real.
enough reason. Uh, yeah. So Nick, Dockside is overrated.
It is.
The
Dockside's bad. There were no good Docksides against me. I'm just
Yeah, I
saying.
believe you. I
That's
believe you.
fair.
Is
Um,
there any cards you would add or take out?
Honestly, the deck performed. It did the thing. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. Nothing in here really felt terrible. I
Yeah.
don't think I was punished for playing any of the cards. Force of Vigor was an MVP. Um,
Oh, let's go. I told you
very,
to put
very
it in.
good card. In the
Told you.
finals pod, I did hit Parker's Mystic Remora and a Rhystic Study.
Yeah, that did
With
set me
it,
super far back.
Get bent
yeah,
over,
it was
Parker.
the turn before I went to Storm off to win, though. So I mean, but
That
it
is, yeah, it is
good
completely fair.
card. It performed. I did convince
Yeah.
also a lot of people wanted to see ecological appreciation after the games. People wanted to look at it, read
Yeah.
it, and talk about the card with me. I'm super high on it. It performed for me again. It was just a huge value pile on two when I did it. Um, I did not ever resolve an x equals 3 pile, but I did cast it
Sad.
for it twice and had counter
Yeah.
wars over it because people were scared because the
Yeah.
card's good.
It's insane. The card is insane. Me and you have been talking about this card forever, and I think this is like the perfect deck list for it, honestly.
I kind of wanted to try it in Kinnan, not gonna lie.
I think
Yeah.
Cannon's another place that can be okay with it because you can
Yeah.
just pump like 7 mana into it for no good reason.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
really
get
Some
like
big
it
like
in
good
boys
here
it.
though,
creatures.
because you have your Grand Abolisher effects, so you can like guarantee one of those, or you can get combo pieces or whatever. So I like it a lot in this
Yeah.
deck.
Toss it
Um.
on 3, throw out like a Ranger Captain, Spell Seeker, Faebro Elder. Just good stuff.
Yeah.
Grevi.
Tyler before the game was before the tournament was making fun of Wargate. Did it ever come up and did you like the card?
I don't think I saw Wargate at all the entire 7 rounds that I played.
Oh, I mean
Real
pretty good.
talk. But in other games when I have seen it, it's been flexible for me. It tutors pretty much every combo piece in the deck with the exception of Chain Stasis. But
Yeah.
it also tutors Spellseeker, which grits Chain Stasis, so like you can work around it. Um,
Ye-
I don't know, it's just a
Do have to
flexible
say
card.
shout out to Tyler for telling me Force of Vigor is a bad card and I shouldn't have recommended it. Eat a toe. Um,
True.
Also, there's something to be said because me and you are both on a higher number of Surveil lands than other decks, and we both top 16. I don't know how much you tutored for them, but I tutored for at least two almost every game, and they were by far the best cards in the deck. I got asked
I
today that, and I said run all three in Rogsai.
Mine performed. I never felt punished for having only two,
Yeah,
and I never got punished by having them in.
yeah,
So I think like on it in the 4 color shell, I think teching two in to be able to fetch with any of your fetches is just fine.
yeah, which is saying something because then all the other three color decks that don't have as much lands as you do or land options should be on all three then if a four color deck can play two and you didn't have a problem. It's just something I need to
Yeah.
keep in mind because it's,
Unless you have like a ton of lands competing for utility spots like Urza Saga, Phyrexian Tower,
yeah,
you should probably be on at least one or two, if not all three. They're
yeah,
very strong. They just make it more consistent. It's nice.
yeah. I forgot to talk to Atlas about adding one into his Kenrith deck because I'm pretty sure his deck wants one. But that will be another time. And then, of course, Parker as Mirage is a broken card.
To be fair, it did keep my Sisei alive in response to a Elish Norn.
That is sick.
Yeah, I tutored on 0, and they're like, "What are you grabbing to keep yourself alive?" And I was like, "Azra the Koldakar," and they're like, "Wait, what?"
It came up, it came
Fire.
up.
And it also
Uh,
it won me a different game. I was able to end step tutor it and then tutor on 3s, which just won me the game.
yeah. That's crazy that this card that we were told is old Sisei tech still kicking booty.
True.
Is there any cards in here that you think you want to change or try out a different card instead of?
Yeah, Sanctum Weaver is going to become a Faber Elder.
Yeah.
Opens up another line if my Bloom Tender gets killed and or exiled,
Yep.
with Derevi and Emil. It also just is a better dork than Sanctum Weaver.
Yep.
Fairborough
And
has been a house when I've played it.
Yeah.
yeah,
The
and
card's very good.
it's really easy to keep alive as well, and it has vigilance, so it can be a Derevi swing.
Yep.
There's a lot more bonuses to it than Sanctum Weaver.
I agree.
Yeah. Uh, is there anything that you think that Gabby could have done better for the tournament?
2 days, please.
Yeah, 2 days is what I heard, especially if it gets this much. Like, have a thing in place, like if it hits 6 rounds, we do, like, if we hit 6 rounds, just make it 7 and do, like, 5 one day, 2 the other day with the top
Yeah.
or something. Which I think people did talk to Gabby about, but I'll also communicate with, like, Sasha, Atlas, the people I need to potentially let them know that, hey, if this is going to be this big every time, um, we can probably pop off and make it a 2 day thing.
Yeah, I communicated that towards Gabi. I was just
Sweet.
like, with the aspect of you getting so many people, do you think that the next event would be a 2-day event? And she said they've already considered it, considering how
Mm,
it turned out. So,
yeah. Yeah, because it was very last minute that they opened up the slots. Imagine if they broadcast it to a wider audience instead of just the Washington, like the Pacific Northwest people, and it was like 2 day event. I think it could hit a large number, especially with like Atlas being the one to go to other Discords and stuff.
mhm.
We can probably get a really big turnout and have like again a really big Washington tournament like we used to have.
Yep.
Yeah. You gotta start thinking logistically though, where do we cap, or do we have to like rent out a convention center after a certain point?
Yeah, well they could fit 128 people in there, and I think 128 does fit pretty comfortably, and that's not even including the extra 4 tables that they had off to the side
Yeah.
that were for other people. I imagine if they do a 2 day event, they don't have those anymore.
Good lord, trying to walk around up there between rounds though.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Or
it
the
would
That was
be
body
the
heat
one.
would be insane.
it would be rough, but it would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be
Um,
sweet to have that big of a tournament.
yeah,
Big fan.
but four of the 7 of us that went down, top 16, really good splits, and then one of us made 17th, so almost 5 of us, which is like amazing splits. Bellingham boys coming up clutch.
True.
Something I do want to do that I haven't even told you guys about. Well, I guess me and Parker and Nick, I guess all of us have talked about it at least a little bit. I want to commission someone to make like uh, a shirt for the Bellingham people.
Mhm.
So when we do go to tournaments, we can have like how the Lacey people have their shirts. We can have a Bellingham shirt, so we do represent a little bit, which I think would be sick. I just need to find someone who is better at at completing projects we give them. Looks at
That's
Ruben.
fair.
You didn't have to dox him like that.
Well,
Rip
where's my
Ruben.
football fit playmat?
Well, it's lost,
Go
you
buy
know.
one.
Canonically accurate.
It's been 2 years.
Fibblethip the lost, dude. What did you
Yeah.
think would happen?
And then this is the top 16 picture. Here's Cameron, Jack, me, and then we see Cart watching over Nick's shoulder like a guardian angel,
And then me
and then we have
behind.
Parker way over here that we
And then
can't really
Atlas
see
is
that
right
well.
behind me.
We have part of Parker.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, but it was a great time. Would do it again, and in 2 weeks we get to do it again at Laughing Dragon
True.
for CDH6, which is going to be sick. Are both of you going?
Yes.
I should be there. Will I be
That's
playing a good deck? Well, who knows?
I think you
Ooh.
probably will be.
I think you'll be playing probably the same deck. Wouldn't be surprised. Or I will
Yeah.
steal your collection.
But
Whoa,
I wouldn't
whoa,
also
whoa.
be. Well, hold on. We don't need to do that to me.
Yeah, we
only
might
me.
need to do that to you.
But yeah,
Man, you guys
That's how
want
it
the oof? That's crazy.
I'll put it in Seze. I only run like 7 artifacts and the smothering
And
type.
smothering
And
type.
Dockside.
Hey, Dockside don't matter. And the
Most of your
Hada.
combos are
Hey, it works
Dockside and
without it. It
Revolver.
works without it.
Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Leave us any comments about what episode you want. I think the next one I'm gonna do is gonna be Bailey's hot takes. We'll see who we have on for that because I think it would be funny. Because I have some pretty decent hot takes.
I'm
5
what?
likes on this video, and I will swift reconfiguration Parker's Emil with a collector oof out.
That would